Boom, 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 boom. How is he doing, you moderately attractive people here? It is Friday night, and we are back here for another episode of the Friday Night Movie Club. We're at episode 80 now, and I think we kind of cheated because we actually did 2 episodes last week because our last Sunday episode, I should say, was the Oscar stream. So now we're back here for 80, so we're catching up pretty rapidly. And I got my 2 good buddies who saw a couple of well, I wouldn't say everyone here saw a good movie, but they saw movies this week. That's for certain. Mr. Rob Motto, how you doing tonight, Rob?
Pretty good. It was a weird week because the worst movie I saw this week is much better than the worst movies of the year that we've had to like suffer through the last couple weeks. So that's always a positive.
Well, then again, we'll talk about it here as the show goes on. Cause I'm not sure if we saw the same movies this week. I know what movie this guy saw, Mr. Rick Aragon. How you doing there, Rick?
I'm doing all right, and I had time for only one film this week because I decided I don't have enough money to spend on 3 films, even in the middle of the Biden boom.
That's probably for the best. So there you go. We're live here on Twitter, on Rumble, and on YouTube here tonight. Let me go ahead and just make a little bit of a quick announcement here. If you guys notice, our last episode of the Bar Room was blocked on YouTube this week, and it's currently being disputed. However, during the dispute, it's currently blocked. And what happened was WWE popped us yet again. If you recall, at the very end of the show, that was almost 2.5 hours long, I played a minute-long parody video about John Cena basically worshiping the Chinese government. Came out, it was a parody video. The whole thing was completely edited, nothing but memes. It wasn't even the original WWE video, and WWE copyright claimed the entire stream. So the entire stream is currently blocked on YouTube until the dispute has been finished there. However, it is still up on Rumble. So episode I think it was 80 was it 90 we did last, yeah, episode 90 we did this week. The whole show is still up on Rumble, but apparently it'll be a while before it's back on YouTube. So it is what it is. I mean, like I said, this whole thing, there's a lot of words that I can use to describe it, but they all rhyme with fake and gay. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. But yeah, go to Rumble if you want to see this.
Yeah. So in other words, YouTube could show John Cena naked. You just can't see John Cena parody.
Yeah.
Is that my understanding?
Yeah, the Chinese John Cena parody video you can't play because it gets automatically copyright claimed by the WWE, even though it's 1, not their video, and 2, it's a parody of John Cena. But they'll just that's the way they go. So you can't play anything that's WWE related on your live stream. Either your stream will unironically get shut down immediately, or it'll get claimed after the fact. So yeah, whoever's running WWE is a bunch of bags of douches. And I'll just leave it at that.
It should be pointed out that parody is protected under the First Amendment. So I don't see.
And we all know how this whole thing is going to go. They're going to wait out the time period, and in 30 days be like, hey, your video is back on YouTube. It's like, yeah, great. It should never been taken down in the first place. So thanks for letting me have my stream back for 4 weeks after the fact. But that's the YouTube game for you.
Well, I mean, YouTube, this has been going on with YouTube for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I saw this with Revenge of the Sis, a bunch of other creators. I mean, the event was called like the Adpocalypse or whatever, when they changed their revenue payouts due to ads and not being on basically spicy videos. That's when YouTube was good. YouTube when like anybody could go on, and it just was about views. It was about growing your channel. It was about, having a good amount of different producers in terms of a marketplace where you had all these different diverse voices talking about some of the same issues or kind of cross issues or whatever. So it's I don't know, it just doesn't seem like the platform, unless you're a corporation or an established media figure.
or
it
you're a
seems like
gay
a very
man who does makeup or something like that. It's like, yeah, you're
right. But if you want to like, you have opinions about shit, you probably unless you're on the right side of things per se, you're probably not gonna grow your channel very much. I mean, Orange Hat does consistent reviews, videos, whatever. He
yep.
has a hell of a time getting any
Yeah,
traction.
he had an issue this week too. One of his videos was taken down or claimed or blocked like after the fact, and it was like he was trying to get YouTube to get him help. It's like, oh, could you give us the URL? It's like, no, you removed the entire video. There's no URL. But this is the game that we have to play now. Like I've been saying this for a while. Like I know we obviously know bigger YouTubers who have to play the YouTube game. That's their decision. Like at the end of the day, because they're the ones that have to watch everything that you say, and you can't talk about this topic because it'll get on the bad side of the algorithm, and they gotta like dance around the entire. And look, if YouTube is essentially your sole source of income, and that's gonna be like your business, I get it. So I mean, I'm not gonna try to like blow up anybody else's spot, but look, I know the things that I want to talk about are going to be things that are not exactly on YouTube's approved list. So I'm going to have a choice. I'm going to have to decide where I'm going to talk about those things regardless because I think they're important, or I'll just have to play the game and have to like pussyfoot around like everything. And I'm just not going to do that because I've said this many times before. If I had to essentially play the YouTube game, the bar room will literally just be me and CJ like every week. None of you guys will even be on the show because I can't control what everyone else says.
What have I said that has been shocking?
One of the big things is language. Apparently, you can get demonetized for swearing. Where like a lot of the major channels started doing like bleeps. You would like hear back in the day on cable, and it's like, how is the internet becoming like the old media used to be, where like you had to go to certain places to see like HBO or whatever or just
Serious Radio out when it first came out.
But like you had movies that were censored. You had, I mean, it's still one of my favorite things is The Big Lebowski, where it's like, this is what you get, Larry, when you find a stranger in the Alps instead of obviously, what the real line is. So like there's all that stuff from my childhood, and it's like YouTube, a big part of the internet, is becoming more censor happy or as censor happy as what was it, the FCC?
Yep.
So.
Mm-hmm. It's just the way that it is. I mean, there's a story that we're going to talk about here for a second, but apparently you couldn't talk about that story because just saying the words Israel or Palestine, no matter what the actual context of the conversation is, you're popped from YouTube. They don't like you talking about that, so you can't say it. So it's like, I'm not allowed to talk about this whole situation, even has nothing to do with the actual conflict, like at all. It's like that's how far that we have to like censor ourselves. It's like, look, some people go and play a game, and I know my channel has probably been throttled because of a lot of the content of the videos that I've done and the topics that I've talked about are not algorithm friendly, so it gets suppressed. It doesn't get as much exposure as some of the other ones. But like I said, I'm not going to dance around the bush when it comes to stuff like this. But that's the way that the YouTube game goes. So. Real quick, because I know we got 3 movies to talk about tonight, so I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to talk about this because Rob, you weren't on the bar room this week, and this is a very interesting conversation here. Nev Campbell is back for Scream. Now, keep in mind, this whole thing started 2 years ago. A lot of people who are covering this now think that this is just something that happened like a few months ago when Melissa, Barbara, and Jenna Ortega left the project, and a lot of people are trying to like frame this as if it's some kind of like slight against Hispanic people. No, this goes back a few years ago. We got to go rewind the tape a little bit further than that. So, if you recall, 2 years ago, Nev Campbell went on social media, specifically Instagram, and said that she was leaving the Scream franchise. She was not going to be involved in any way, shape, or form in Scream 7, which is the film that came out a year ago, because she felt like the Paramount was lowballing her for her contribution for Scream 7. So essentially, they just made the decision that, hey, look, you know what? We got these 2 young Hispanic stars, these rising stars in Hollywood. We really don't need Nev Campbell anymore. I mean, the whole franchise is focused on them now. So, Nev, we thank you for coming back from Scream 6, but we really don't need you for Scream 7. We're not going to pay you what you think you deserve. So, she left the project. And they did Scream 7. That said, that film came out. It was moderate success. And then they were going to go forward with another Scream movie The problem is that a few months ago, Melissa Barbaro, who keep in mind is Mexican from the country of Mexico, decided to go all in on the Israel-Palestine conflict and upset a lot of people in Hollywood because she went all in support of Palestine, going as far to say that Israel was being genociding the Palestinians, that that we need to ceasefire. She didn't quite go from the river to the sea, but she was pretty much close to like going there. And I think some of her recent comments probably allude to that just a little bit. So obviously a shocker, especially to you, Rob. There are people in Hollywood that actually don't like when we talk bad about Israel. So she lost her position. She lost her job. She got fired. The day afterwards, Jenna Ortega announced that she was also leaving the project. Now, she didn't get fired, but essentially she left because if you look at some of her social media posts, she has the exact same opinion about Palestine and Israel as her co-star. So as solidarity, she decided to leave the project as well. So all of a sudden, Paramount is sitting here with their two young, woke, diverse Hispanic superstars, both leaving the project simultaneously. David Arquette's dead; you can't bring him back from the dead. Like, how are we going to move forward with this movie? And everyone's gone. Well, I guess we're going to have to call Neve Campbell back and bring her into the fold. And I'm pretty sure Neve Campbell was getting paid a pretty penny to return to this franchise, since her whole deal was that she wasn't getting paid the first time around. So now, after all this has happened, Sidney Prescott is back. She went on this whole post saying that it's a blast and honor to get to play City in the Scream movies again. My appreciation for these films and what they have meant to me have never waned, Campbell declared. She's announcing that she's going to be back. Apparently, Kevin Williamson is going to be directing this movie, and he's going to have a hand in the screenplay as well. So all well that ends well. We're just going to pretend like the last 2 years never happened, and Sydney's back, ladies and gentlemen. Even though if we hadn't fired those other two chicks, there was really no reason for this film to even exist, because it was supposed to be a trilogy around those two characters, and now the final film of that trilogy you can't do because they mouthed off against Israel. Then here's where we are now. So there's been a very passionate debate about this over the last few days. Like I said, there's some people who think that essentially that the two Hispanic girls have been slighted, and that this is somehow a blow to Hispanic representation. And somebody who's been covering this story a little bit longer, I see this as Paramount made a choice to essentially give Neve Campbell the boot and went all in on diversity and inclusion until it got so woke that they ended up going against the hand that feeds them. And then they have to get rid of the two woke characters and be like, hey, Neve, you want to come back for another movie now? Isn't it great? Yay. So what do you think about this whole story, Rob, from start to finish? What do you think about Neve Campbell coming back to Scream? And what do you think about how the way that Melissa and Jenna Ortega essentially left the Scream franchise at this point?
Yeah, I'm unfortunate to have been following this for a long time now, since they rebooted the Scream movies with these two girls.
Yeah.
I don't understand the long game that Barrera and what's her face are doing.
Ortega,
Jenna Ortega,
Ortega are doing. You're movie stars. I mean, barely, but you're movie stars by a mod. What the fuck are you doing? There's, you're not. I mean, you might get some roles, but you're also shooting yourself in the foot in terms of not giving you opportunities. Will not be available to you because you did this. And I know it's about like showing your fans that you put your money where your mouth is and you really stand up for the quote unquote oppressed. And whatever, you can believe that that's what's going on. But like, these people are professional liars. Actors are professional liars. So they're trying to convince you of something. But again, I don't think that there's any benefit to them doing this. So I think it's really idiotic and stupid just from a business perspective. But this makes sense. The two girls brought a lot of negative attention on the franchise. They decided to pay Neve Campbell, who they didn't pay earlier, which is why they're in this problem in the first place. And they're going to go forward, and hopefully they can. And I just say this as a general, movie lover. Like, yeah, I hope that these movies are good, but I don't have any hope that they will be. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to kind of pivot, go forward with Neve Campbell and Kevin Williamson, who are the original, I guess, heart and soul of the franchise. They go back to the original. Okay. I'm not super plussed about Scream anyway. I think the movies generally suck. Even the first one is heavily overrated, but at least it's a much better movie than what came after. So
At least the first one had an idea. I'll give it that much
exactly.
credit.
No, and it's because Wes Craven was directly involved. He was still alive for it, and he had that input. But yeah, I really don't have much of an opinion about these girls or the franchise going forward. I think it was really dumb to do what they did. Because even Jenny Ortega, what's her biggest thing? The Wednesday show on Netflix. I
Pretty
mean,
much.
she was in that X movie. She's in that Miller's Girl movie, which is still getting like by the way, everybody hated that movie. Like
Yeah, it's
people
not great.
on the right hate it, and people on the left think it's grooming or something. So it's just like, yeah, no,
Because she looks
nobody
like a
likes it.
12-year-old, even though she's like 20
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So and even if it wasn't, she's supposed to be playing like a 17-year-old and he's like a 50-year-old. Or even if it's college, she's like a 19-year-old and he's still in his 50s. So it's like,
Yeah,
yes, they're adults, but yeah, it is a little like it weird power imbalance kind of
creepy.
thing. So yeah, creepy. There you go. It's
Mm.
so I don't know why you would do something like that other than you're as invested of being an influencer as a movie star, if I can even use that term. But because it doesn't make any sense. It's like you're preventing yourself from getting potential offers because you're alienating the people you would be working with.
Here's my big complaint about this. I think I just saw our article here, which I'll pick up here in just a second before I go to Rick. But here's my problem. You have two women who have been empowered by Hollywood, by diversity, inclusion, and all this whole nonsense. So when they were speaking out against like Trump supporters, they were speaking out in defense of what was it, the whole Roe v. Wade like situation. When it was all these other issues, you essentially let them like rule the roost. You let them have all the power in the world, and they essentially were created them. You created these people in a bubble where they thought that, okay, I can just say wherever I want, and there's going to be no consequences for it whatsoever. So they've gone so far into like the kind of this racial aspect of it, because we talked about this on Tuesday, even a few weeks before this, is that Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barber are not looking at this from a religious angle of it's Jews versus Muslims, right? They're looking at this purely from a race perspective. They see a bunch of people from a white country, quote unquote, going up against people from a brown country, and they think that the people in the brown country are the victims. And that's their whole, and that's what a lot of these people out here are supporting Palestine look at it from the exact same way. They're not seeing this as Islam versus Judaism or the coming Messiah. They don't look at it from any aspect whatsoever. It's just brown people versus white people, and we have to side with the brown people. You guys, like I said, these two have no actual like connection to like Palestine whatsoever, by the way. But it's like you guys went all in on this situation that has literally nothing to do with you, because you had the virtue signal to the world that you're a good person because I support Insight Side here. That you essentially went up against the hand that fed you. Shocker, there's a lot of Jews in Hollywood, and there's a lot of Jews in Hollywood that have a lot of power. When you go against the nation of Israel, which has a lot of Jewish people there, they're not going to be too happy about your current standing in the business. And guess what? You may or you may not get blacklisted. They decided that this was the hill they wanted to die on, because even right now, if you go to Jenna Ortega's Instagram page, she has a link for Save the Children, which is specifically to help children in the Gaza, the Palestinian victim children is the way they call it over there. So you guys went all in on this. Now there's talks about Jenna Ortega might be leaving Wednesday, because like I said, she's getting heat from association now. She's not getting as much heat as Barbara, because Barbara has been much more outspoken against this than she has. But like I said, she's right there lying step with all the other beliefs here. So I just don't see the common sense perspective of this. But Rick, as a fellow Hispanic, even a very waspy Hispanic, do you think that as Mexicans that they should view foul to the point that these two got booted off of the woke Scream franchise that, be honest with ourselves, was crafted specifically for them?
Uh, no, the way I understand it is that they were dumped because they were just too hot to handle. It had nothing to do with their ethnicity. So I don't understand why anyone would even think that it was due to their ethnicity. And moreover, are they that big of a star? Are they that big of a draw? Are their characters that important that we need to keep them on? So no, I mean they did something. Maybe they found this as a good excuse to dump them. This was a perfect reason to say, you know what, they're not worth it. Let's see if we can just get rid of these people and move on to someone else. Although honestly, just end the franchise. It shouldn't even be a franchise. We should not have a Scream 7. I mean, after all this time, if you aren't able to kill Sydney at this point, she's pretty unkillable. I mean, you've had so many chances to kill her. Obviously, you keep failing. It's just not worth it. I mean, I would just leave her alone. So, yeah, I'll say just no. It has nothing to do with with their ethnicity. I don't believe it has anything to do with their ethnicity. I think it has everything to do with their outspokenness on the subject that they know very little to nothing about.
I mean, okay. So, I mean, it is in that they are okay. It defeats what I'm about to say, but it's like they're not Jewish, but it's like if they were, they would not be that stupid. Also, you know what I mean? They'd be a little bit more savvy about like, oh, hey, you know, even if like this is the popular thing, which is all this is. It's just it's for social media clout. It's for people who don't pay your fucking bills, who do not write your paycheck. Do you know, like it's the oldest rule in the book. Do not shit where you eat, which I know is about like not sleeping, but you can use it in many different ways where it's like, don't bite the hand that feeds you. It's the other, I mean, that's the other way of saying that, but yeah, just makes no sense.
So it'll be very interesting here because, like I said, Melissa has a movie coming out in a few weeks. It's called Abigail, which, like I said, is basically about the vampire ballerina. If you guys seen the trailers for that one over the last couple of weeks, so she's supposed to be the lead in that film, and I don't know how much they're going to market it. It's a Universal movie too, so I don't know how much they're going to market it with her, knowing what she said over the last few weeks. So I wonder if they're going to try to like go lowball on this one, or maybe if they'll just like throw it out there with no press, hoping they'll just get something back. Cause I know that Catherine Newton's in that film, and what's his name, Juan Carlo Esposito is also in that movie too. So there's a couple of other stars that they have going there, but I mean, I don't know if they even want to touch this chick with a 10-foot pole right now.
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, you might as well. And here's the thing. When it comes to her, to the other co-stars in the ballerina vampire movie, more than likely they will be asked about Barbara's comments. Whatever. Barrera.
I'm fucking Mexican, dude.
I can get away with it. I can get away with it.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so they'll be asked, and more than likely, any sensible reporter or journalist, what have you, will ask them about those comments. And so
which has to be a nightmare. Which has to be a nightmare. It's like, yeah, my co-star says something stupid, so now I'm gonna have to get a very generic, like, you know, corporate written answer, so I don't get my career destroyed in the same concept too in the next few weeks. That's gonna be fun.
It's like when Olivia Munn like just threw the producers under the bus for what was the Predators movie.
Oh yeah,
they hired a sexual predator. They hired somebody who's like.
Oh, by the way, guys, they hired a pedophile to be in this film. I just want to let you guys know that. It's like, did you know that this guy was a pedophile? It's like, yeah, then that nice going. But like I said, this is I can't feel bad for Hollywood at all. This is what you guys have created. You created an entire atmosphere of dumb actresses who you've empowered to just say whatever they want, and then you guys don't care until it affects your bottom line. So you had no problem with anything Olivia said up to the point that she pointed out you were hiring pedophiles for your movie. You had no problem with anything that, you know, Jenna Ortega did with the whole Ronnie Hart situation and leading up to that. You had no problem with Melissa Barrera's, you know, Che Guevara like tendencies before this point. It was only when we got to this point right here that you guys had a problem with it. So if you want to say it's hypocrisy, you can say it's hypocrisy, but they're all dumb at the end of the day. So
how many actresses have we covered on The Barroom or this show who would do so much better if they followed suit of someone like Emma Stone? I know she's not the favorite or whatever because she won for Poor Things for Best Actress or whatever, but like look at how she conducts herself in interviews. She's very down to earth. She's easy to like. I don't care who we're talking about. Brie Larson. It could be Lily Gladstone and her fucking Kansas City Chief bullshit. It could be anybody like who's stepping out to make a statement or whatever. Kristen Stewart, shut the fuck up. By the way, liked your movie, but really, that whole thing was a distraction from your fucking movie, and it just made it more annoying. So it's like, take anybody, Sydney Sweeney, Emma Stone, follow that. people will like you, just shut the hell up. Just talk about your family or something relatable instead of fucking politics all the time.
It's like I say, and I bring it up every time, as old Rip Rogers likes to say, never miss an opportunity to shut the F up. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, well, I blame the political activism starting really in the 1960s, where all of these performers genuinely thought it was their duty, if not their responsibility, to tell us how to think, what to think, and enlighten us with their esoteric wisdom on the issues of the day. And now you can be political. I know, and I know I bring up older figures. Myrna Loy was very much on the left. James Stewart was very much on the right. But you'll find conservatives who love Myrna Loy, and you'll find liberals who love James Stewart. It wasn't it wasn't their whole aspect, and they were pretty much active, but not so overt in this way as all of the other people.
Well, Henry Fonda,
yeah.
classic liberal, and he was best friends with Jimmy Stewart, who was a staunch Republican. So,
Oh
I mean,
yeah, really good book on the subject. I think it's
oh no,
called
I have,
Hank and
Jim by
Yeah,
Scott Iman. Yeah, I have it.
yeah, I read it. Very good. And I think I think they had one argument about politics, and then they said, you know what, we're not going to discuss this. We're going to value
Yep.
our friendship more
Yep.
than we are our political views. People can't do that nowadays. But all of these stars, Melissa and Jenny and Mark Ruffalo and all these
Even
other
Brie
people,
Larson and Jennifer
yeah,
Lawrence and like these people who put
they
their
need
foot in their mouth.
they need to tell us, how much smarter they are by telling us about what to do with the world. And at a certain point, I really don't need any of them to tell me what to think, how to vote. There's just no point
Just
in
shut
doing
up.
that.
Just shut up. No one cares. Just shut up. I mean, I wish it could just be that simple. Just shut up. But no, they can't help themselves. These people, their egos are far too big for them to be like, no, I have to speak out about this topic. No, actually, you don't. You could just shut up, and then the world move on. So, Alex versus Evil Axis here about Austin St. John. I'm not sure if any of you guys were like really followed this story like at all, but my regulation of this, because I've only like lightly heard about it, is that apparently Austin St. John started some kind of clothing line or something like that, which has like quotes from people in history. And I guess Hitler was like one of the people that were including with this and whatnot. It's like, he was like, I think he even said something that's like, yeah, he was a horrible person, but he had like some badass quotes or something like I don't get it. Like, I have no concept of what Austin St. John is like doing right now, but I would just say that he's definitely getting attention. If that was his game plan here, people are definitely taking notice of this.
I mean, it's kind of a joke because you see this all the time with like people making some tongue-in-cheek comment about like Starship Troopers or Triumph of the Will or Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Like, oh hey, fascist aesthetics are cool, bro.
Yeah.
But it's not a joke because it's like, no, there's a reason why that like Nazi Hugo Boss like aesthetic has lasted so long. And I mean, and it's just like, yeah, okay, but that's whatever. I have no idea, so I can't comment on the actual issue, but just like, yeah, people want to look badass and cool. What?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around someone wearing like a T-shirt with like a quote from Mein Kampf. Like, Ava, I love you. It was like, what?
They just walk around and be like, no, I'm bringing it back. It's cool. So, all right, then. Well, we got some movies to talk about here tonight, so let's go ahead. And I want to start this one off on a positive note, and then work our way down for the bad movies, because I got a lot to say about the bad movies for tonight. But we're gonna start this one off talking about the latest Mark Wahlberg film, Arthur the King. Now, this is the one that Mr. Rob Motto had to go see this week. He claims that he hated this movie, that he hadn't seen it yet, but he just hated the thing that they were essentially using the dog for emotional manipulation, and he likes dogs, and he didn't like being manipulated emotionally. But apparently he had some fun things to say about this film. So I actually did see this film as well. So the whole concept here is that is based on a true story, also based on a novel too, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a bunch of mountain climbers who venture in for competitions and whatnot. They go to like the deepest parts of like South American jungles and like compete and things of that nature. So Mark Wahlberg is this guy who's very hard-headed, very egotistical, doesn't really listen to anyone. That's why his team team always loses because he wants to just go all in and never stop and never. He doesn't think strategically about how to do. He just wants to be the first one there no matter what. And he gets to a point where he burns all his bridges, so he only gets one shot left, and he decides to rally the best people he can find. They go on the trip again, and for some reason, there's this dog that just keeps popping up no matter how far they go. Like they travel for miles and days, and the dog just keeps coming back. So he starts thinking to himself, like, well, should I just start bringing the dog along? Should it just be an unofficial member of the team? And he starts to forge this relationship with this dog, and it forces him to kind of think more on a humane level of how he's been treating everyone up to this point. So, Rob, you did see the movie, so I'll go ahead and gut you for here. Kind of your opening thoughts on kind of the premise here for Author of the Dog movie and Mark Wahlberg in general.
Yeah, it kind of starts out pretty generic. Mark Wahlberg is a hyper competitive sort of athlete. The best way I can describe it, summing it up, because it's like a cross country mountain climbing, like running long distances, and there's kayaking. I mean, it's like I don't even know, like a decathlon type kind of event, but it out in the elements, out in the jungle, and I think it's Brazil, San Domingo. But yeah, but anyway, it's kind of, you know.
Just real quick, did you ever get the vibe? Remember the old CBS show? I'm not sure if it's still on, The Amazing Race. Is that what it felt like to me? Like I was basically just watching like an Amazing Race episode.
Yeah, and you have like the BBC type reporters like giving expositional dialogue to like give you the information you need. You know, why are these people out here? What's at stake? That kind of thing. And yeah, he basically is hyper competitive to the point where he's like, you know, I'm going to will my team to the finish line, and really he just leads them astray. And he ends up losing and not even being able to finish. And part of him getting back into this event is convincing this, I'm trying to think, like this company, this sponsor to give him $100,000 when he hasn't finished an event. I mean, that's basically or he's never won, at least. And so, you know, part of that is just like self-determination, but it's like, you know, at a certain point, people want to be associated with someone who wins, someone who embodies that spirit. And so it's basically just a setup to get him back into the same location to see if he's learned anything from his prior experiences. He has a family now 3 years later. And so it's just, you know, that's the movie, is really following Mark Wahlberg's character, seeing that character development, seeing him grow. And large part of it is this dog that shows up and is an asset to him and his team.
Yeah, and I noticed this too early on as well, because that was like the big thing. I noticed that, especially early in this film, like Mark Wahlberg, he's kind of gotten to this position where he's almost playing like the same person in almost every movie. Like he always has that one scene where he's like reading someone like the riot act and just like writing them down as a character. I just feel like I've seen this character before, like so many movies. Like, what do you think about Mark Wahlberg specifically as a lead? Do you think that he has like any range, where he's just like at this point he knows exactly what he is at this point?
He's
in
never
Hollywood?
had range.
I'm a little mean when it comes to Mark Wahlberg. He is like a step above Channing Tatum, and he's kind of like a really dumbed down version of Matt Damon. Like Matt Damon has the same thing where I'm sure people get annoyed by seeing him, but he's a competent actor, especially when the material's good. Like Air, there was nothing to that movie, and yet I thought he carried it. He actually kept me interested and invested. Mark Wahlberg, unless his co-stars are good, the director is good, there's a clear vision for the story. Like the last Mark Wahlberg movie that I enjoyed, I think, was either The Fighter, and never mind, it wasn't The Fighter, because that came out in it was the same year. It was The Fighter and The Other Guys. Okay, that's how long it's been for, like, Mark Wahlberg's been in these just like generic action movies, adventure movies, family movies. He was Father Stu, which I know a lot of religious people loved that movie. I fucking hated it. I hated it. That movie with Mel
I was
Gibson.
in the middle with it. I think I gave like a 3 at the time, but yeah, I was pretty in the middle with that film.
So I'm a little, and plus Mark Wahlberg said that really stupid thing about how he would have stopped the plane from going into the towers.
Yeah, sure you would.
Anyway, so he annoys me. I know he's a big family guy, and people love him for that, and the types of movies he gravitates to. But yeah, he's always bothered me. He annoys the shit out of me, honestly. He wasn't bad here, but I also felt like there wasn't much to his character.
Like for me, it feels like it's been a while since I've really enjoyed something that he's been in. I think the last movie I really enjoyed him in was Deepwater Horizon, and that was like 2016. So we're talking like 8 years ago there. And then it was the other one right after that was Patriots Day. I think those are the two films that it was him and Peter Berg are teamed up together. But you could tell with those films, like, because he had such a close relationship with Berg and kind of the story that was being told there, that he took it a lot more seriously and played it up in a lot different manner, because he actually had some stake in the film. Like Patriots Day was essentially about the Boston marathon bombing, so he wanted to, do a film that was faithful to the city of Boston where he's from. It's like, okay, so you can see that there was more effort for him in that film because it actually inspired him to commit more. But some of these other movies, it just feels like, you're just gonna get like basic like Mark Wahlberg. It's like, here's Daddy's Home too, and Instant Family, and that's gonna be like what you get out of him, right?
I still think his best performance, his like complete best performance, pound for pound, was his character in The Departed. And the reason for that, exactly, because he knows that even if it's not himself, he knows that guy. He's from he's from the Boston area. Boston or whatever, to the point where he understands exactly how to bring out that character and be that character. And it may not be a stretch for a lot of people or think it's that impressive a performance. It's his most entertaining though. It's him his most,
to me, he's a guy.
That's what I said. It's like he's playing himself. I was not impressed, and you gave him an Oscar nomination for playing himself
in 2006.
Why? Yes. Why?
Yeah, because it was 2006.
Yeah.
So, but no, like I think he's a guy who like really needs direction, if that makes sense. Like if you put him up there with like a good director, he can actually be pretty good. Like another performance of his that I actually really liked was Pain and Gain, and that was him and like Michael Bay, and he was teaming up with like The Rock and what's the other dude's name? Anthony Mackie. I thought he got a good performance out of that. Like I said, he obviously likes working with like Peter Berg. So there are some guys in Hollywood that he could actually, I guess, muster up enough to actually give a shit about so when he's there. But I'd say other performances he feels a little bit more subdued, and with this one I feel like he's somewhere kind of like in between, because like clearly this is based on a true story, so he's gonna try a little bit more, because like I said, this personal stake of I want to honor the guy that this is actually like, based on, so you don't get like the typical like boring Wahlberg performance here. But like I said, there are some instances of like classic Wahlberg that you see like throughout the movie. Like when he's sitting there in that boardroom, it's like, am I watching Pain and Gain again? Because it feels like I'm watching a scene directly out of Pain and Gain. Just listen to him run down these people. But
and Asian Ken is his like teammate.
Oh yeah, right.
He has to basically beg to come.
No, actually, not just Asian Ken, but Shang-Chi. If you remember, Simu Liu is in this movie. He basically plays the social media influencer who's very, very popular and markets a whole bunch of like BS crap, because he has a big following on social media, and he's essentially Mark's right hand guy like in this film. But he always button heads with him because Mark doesn't actually listen to his teammates, which seems to be the big problem here. And he's joined by what's her name, Natalie Emmanuel, the girl who's in all the Fast and Furious movies. That's all I remember from at this point. She's also in this
Game of Thrones lady.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I mean, she might as well be in Game of Thrones.
Yep.
She's just the person that stands next to Ludacris in all the Fast and Furious movies for me. So, but yeah, she's in this film too, and I think that the supporting cast is all right. I just don't think that there really isn't much for them here. Like their sole purpose is that because of the context of what the film is about, like he needs to have a team around them, and they're just there to fill up that spot. Like nobody else in this film really gives a performance that makes you go like, oh yeah, that person was really good. And it's like they're just kind of there to be there for the most part. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, he brings the guy along despite he's got the fact that he's got a busted knee, and I don't know how they play this off in the movie, because it's like, so you ask this guy to come, and granted, it's like I don't know if it's like Mark Wahlberg's character's kind of like a rugged individualist, so it's like it's his call. So like, yeah, I'll use him to win if I can, but he might also be like stranded out there with his bad knee. You know what I mean? I didn't quite grasp the logic there. And then the girl who goes is the daughter of like a world famous rock climber who has cancer, and that's why she's there for her dad. And it was just like very thin character details that are just like, okay, I guess there's a reason this person's here. and then Simu Liu is there because he begged him to, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it was required that if he was going to get the sponsorship money, that he had to be on the team like as well, or
Because the
that was like the
Instagram,
yeah,
yeah.
that was the connection there because he had like views and whatnot. And for the record, we just corrected here. The map, they weren't in Brazil; they were actually in the borderline of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, which is getting a lot of good press.
Oh, geez.
Right? So imagine being running a marathon in the jungles of Haiti at a time like this. It's like, yeah, maybe this is a good thing this film was based in the past before barbecue took over and started eating people. So.
Well, I mean, they would have had, they could have popped in with some voodoo. Try to.
I don't think
There
we.
could have been no voodoo. No, there's no voodoo in Haiti. That's all they have.
It's just voodoo and bad exports. Is that pretty much all Haiti has?
So,
But
so
go ahead.
I'm just curious since I didn't see the movie.
Mm-hmm.
How was the dog?
Well, I was actually just about to ask Rob that because obviously the dog is kind of the central figure of the film here, and you were kind of concerned about the portrayal here of this said puppy. So, what did you think about the dog? Did it pull your emotional heartstrings?
Not really. No. No, it's because we first meet the dog. He's on the tough streets of Calcutta, even though that's like in India. But no, he's in, it's some second world hellhole where it's just like there's all kinds of crazy shit going on the street. He goes, I don't know, looking for some food or something, and then he meets some rabid, rabies infested dogs that chase him, and he smartly avoids them by hopping in the back of a truck, and they chase him, and the dog gets away. Oh, thank God. The dog got away. No, it's that. I mean, literally, that's the setup for the character. And then he just basically is like looking for food, and he keeps showing up to Mark Wahlberg, where he gives him these awful meatballs that even his teammates won't eat. And yeah, he keeps showing up. I will say this: the movie does not overly rely on this sort of sentimentality and like poorly delivered emotional garbage that a lot of these movies do. He doesn't show up till like half the movie's over. So like they even have a big set piece with like the zip line that the dog isn't even involved in. The dog is kind of like tracking them and trying to basically get to the other side where they end up. But so I mean, you knew that, and you can tell with how it's filmed that this is going to be a set piece, that they're not all just going to conveniently get across very easily, that there's going to be some kind of a problem. And hey, there is, and it's fine. You need to spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes to sort of eat up runtime. It's fine. And it's one of the few sort of daring and moments that have risk and stakes developed to them, so it's fine. But the dog doesn't show up until like halfway through the movie, and he's not part of their team. But yeah, he's actually part of their team. He prevents them from walking off a ledge, and he becomes a part of them. And Mark Wahlberg changes because he really cares for the dog, who starts to maybe struggle a little bit. So yeah, I will say it could have been a lot worse. It's and I think that they made the dog as a character fit into the movie much better than a lot of other movies do.
I have a question. How did the dog go from Kolkata to Haiti?
Well,
I was joking when I said Calcutta, because I know that that's like in India.
I was going to give him his own answer. It's like, well, if the plot requires it, it's just going to happen.
Because I'm thinking, I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a running gag in the film too, because it's like that they're on like a marathon, like cutting through like the jungle, going like all around all these mountains and rivers and whatnot, and like the dog is like always there waiting for him. And Mark asked the question a couple of times. It's like, how is this dog beating us to the location that we're going to? Or we're like literally dying to like get to this exact same location. He's just sitting over here waiting for us. And nobody thought, man, I don't know, maybe we should let the dog lead, because clearly he knows where he's going rather than us.
Well, I don't know. It just seems strange when you said that he was from Calcutta or Kolkata now, that he ends up in the border of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So I'm like, how did the dog get there? That's all. Like, have to travel far. It's like not.
Well, in the post, John Wick era of, cinema, you can't have, a dog like die or get, too severely injured in cinema because that makes people feel bad. Entire movies have literally gotten like bad test screenings just because a dog died in the film. So it's like, we can't do that. That's the one line that we can't cross with people. So,
Oh, come on! I
There's this
saw all the
terrible
other.
with Richard Gere called was it Haji, A Dog's Tale?
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Ooh.
I hate that movie so much.
I
I
think
hate
Richard
it.
Gere hates that movie.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think they do a pretty decent job of incorporating the dog into the story. But yeah, just overall, there's not much story here. It's
Yeah.
really Mark Wahlberg's character development and coming to care for a dog and care for his teammates and see the big picture.
I will say this because I don't disagree with what you're saying there. If you're looking for kind of like a more upbeat, positive like movie, because I mean, if you just look at the movies that are out in theaters right now, there aren't that many to begin with. So I mean, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more feel good, this is probably the film for you. Definitely not a bad movie. It's just not a great movie either. Like this one's like perfectly like in the middle for me. I'm trying to think. Should I give this a 2.5 or a 3? Because it's somewhere like right in the middle there. Like for me, like this is just a perfectly okay, fine movie. Like I said, I watched it, enjoyed like parts of it, but it's like it's not anything that's gonna inspire anyone. Like, oh, you gotta must see this movie. It's like, if you want to, go see it. If not, wait till it comes out on Paramount Plus, wherever streaming service that these movies come out on. So I don't know. I'm feeling like this is probably more of like a 2.5. If I'm being completely like straight with you. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, that's exactly where I landed. 2.5 out of 5. It's a little thin, it's a little cliched, but I will say that I think people that like family movies, people that like the upbeat, it doesn't drag you down with too much. There's no villains, it's really just kind of like overcoming the elements, and at the very end, trying to save a friend, I suppose. And it does you feel bad. You feel bad, like you find out what's going on with the dog and that he needs a surgery, and Mark Wahlberg wants to take him back to America. And so, I mean, there's some of that and whatever. And I get it. It's based on a true story, which is probably its big selling point. So, but yeah, I land 2.5 out of 5. I don't want to be unfair. I don't want to be mean just because I don't like the package that the movie comes in, because I think that's unfair. I think it's unfair to criticize a movie for what it isn't. You know what I mean? You really should judge it based on its merits and what it is, what it's trying to accomplish. So, but yeah, I'd land at 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty much on the same line there. I couldn't really go too much higher or lower than that. And then Rick, you didn't watch the film, so I don't think no one cares about your opinion. So I guess with that said, we can just move on to our second film of the night here, which is Love, Lies, and Bleeding. So this is a film that we've been talking about, at least me and Rob been talking about for a while, because we saw the previews of this one a few weeks back. And then I guess Kirsten Stewart came out recently, and she was trying to motivate the marketing of this film about it being a queer love story, and that finally we're gonna get a love neo-noir for the gays, because we haven't gotten one yet. And then she did the whole Rolling Stone cover talking about, I want to do the gayest thing that you've ever seen. And I was just like, shut up, Kirsten. Shut up. You're basically like 2 steps away from being Amanda Bynes at this point. Just calm down and let the movie, do what it needs to do. But I will say this here. I know what me and Rob and a few others had noticed here is that her co-star in this film, Katie O'Brien, who you guys may have seen in Ant-Man Quantumanium last year. She was also in The Mandalorian. If you guys watched The Mandalorian, so she's been in a few things here. And I had noticed that she has a much better presence in the film than Stewart does, even though technically this is supposed to be Stewart's movie. So I said this pretty early on that if this film actually does end up being good, it's probably going to be more because of her than it will be for Stewart in general here. But before we get started, what was the things that really struck out about you about the marketing of this film? What was it about the trailer, and then what did you think it's kind of like Kirsten Stewart, the way that she sold the movie before you saw it, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell from the trailer, it's definitely going for a, butch, queer, lesbian sort of crime story.
Yeah.
Which, I don't care who the characters are. I love crime stories. I love neo-noir very much because there's a sense of desperation, a sense of survival, a sense of, oh, I fucked up. I fucked up and I don't know how to fix the situation. I don't know how to, you know, render it back to neutral.
And then every time I try to fix the situation, I make it significantly worse.
Oh yeah.
It's
So
like,
yeah, and that's, I mean, I so I get excited for that. It looked very stylish. It looked like it had a director who kind of knew what they were doing. So and again, like Kristen Stewart's been in good movies. So I'm open to that possibility. I think I think the PR for it, I don't want to say it hurt it, but it was like, that doesn't make me want to see the movie more. You coming out and being like, this is a queer movie. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's two women, it's two lesbians. It's not even, you know, that whole weird, like, whatever you want to, the million labels now that exist now, like gender non-conforming and whatever the fuck
non-binary or Zer and all this little nonsense.
At the end of the day, the movie's about two women who are, how I saw, I know, getting into the movie a little bit here, they're like orphans. Yes, they have families, but families that have either rejected them or are like psychotic, crazy people. So, like, that's honestly how I saw
this is the thing that I love too, and I find this hilarious that even when you put a bunch of LGBTQ people together and let them make their own film, the story is like always the same. It's like you'll get in trouble for like noticing this or noticing patterns, quote unquote, but it's like, basically, you're saying that the reason why you are where you are right now is because you had a completely traumatic childhood that scarred you for life and led you down the current path that you're in right now. Because we have two protagonists. You have, like I said, Kirsten Stewart's character. I believe her name is Lou in the film. And like I said, her father is essentially the local mob boss. Like, he's responsible for all the crime. There's a lot of dead bodies. She quite literally knows where the bodies are buried. And because she had a bad relationship with her father, not because she's gay, they made it very clear. It's like, hey, look, my father may be a horrendous murderer, but he's not a bigot. Okay, so that's the one gleaming thing that he had going for him. Like I said, obviously her relationship with her dad and her mother abandoning her. Then she's trying to take care of her sister, who's dating Dave Franco in the film, and Franco just like savagely beats her like every time that he gets, you know, the chance. It's just a bad situation overall. Then you have this other girl who's basically a drifter, played by Katie O'Brien. She plays the character of Jackie in this movie. And Jackie is quite literally, I guess, having sex for money at the very beginning of the film. And then the next thing you know, she's sleeping under a freeway underpass because she doesn't actually like have like anywhere to go, anywhere to stay. But hey, she's in great shape. She'll go to the gym and, you know, do pull-ups and whatnot, even though the rest of her life is kind of, you know, in shambles. And these two come together one night at the gym. And of course, they immediately hook up. And I know I want to get Rob's take on this one. There was a lot of gratuitous sex scenes very, very early on in the film, almost to the point where it's like, okay, I get it, you may need like one, but like I don't think you need like several. It's like, I think we get it at this point that you guys are gay. There's like still a whole other story going on here. Because I felt like once they finally got past that portion, which was like the first 40 minutes, this film actually started to flow a hell of a lot better when you got to like the second half and like you get to like further into the ending, because now we're actually focusing on what's going on. And the conflict of the story here stems from the fact that, like I said, Dave Franco beats Lou's sister. One night she puts him in the hospital really bad. By the way, I had no idea that this was Jenna Malone who played this figure. It's like, I haven't seen Jenna Malone since like Catching Fire. So it's like, she is not crafted very, very well. Just put it that way. Just things are definitely going downhill. But she gets beat up really bad. And Jackie decides that she's going to take it upon herself to essentially go full She-Hulk on Dave Franco and literally beats him to death in their own house. So Kristen's like freaking out because she doesn't know like what to do, and then she tries to move the body on her own. They try to come up with this whole plan to, we're gonna frame my dad for like the murder or whatnot, but of course they do a terrible job because guess what, they're not good criminals, and dad finds out about it and now he wants revenge on both of them. So that's kind of where the story devolves there. But Rob, let me flip this one back to you real quick. What did you think about kind of like the way that they were portraying like the lesbianism like in this film? Do you think that kind of hurt from the overall narrative of the movie?
I mean, I didn't, because I'm kind of used to like arty, you know,
arty farty nonsense,
sexy movies or whatever. So that didn't. I kind of liked it. I will say that from the start, I could tell Rose Glass, that quick editing, you know, kind of going into Lou's apartment with feeding the cat and heating the food up, and it, like, I could tell right away that this was somebody that has a visual style of knows what she wants behind the camera, the images. Like, I was very much excited like from the start, because stylistically I thought that there was something interesting to sort of unfold. So yeah, I was fine with the sex scenes. They like I thought they were actually pretty quick. And then you just kind of learn about Katie O'Brien's character, and so like she's taking steroids. I think roid rage is definitely a big part of her character.
Oh yeah.
I think I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought that even calling back home, her family referred to as a monster, and
Yep.
how that played. And there are horror elements to her transformation, to her growing muscles, to and I thought that was interesting, because she's at least one of the protagonists of this story, and she's not really viewed
You know what's
wholly in a
weird?
positive light.
But you know what's weird, because I'm not sure if you feel the same way too. It felt like she was really the only redeemable character in this film, and she's responsible for the murder of like quite a few people. So she's not like a good person by like any stretch of the imagination. But you can
Mhm.
see that she went after one guy thinking that she was doing something good, and obviously went too far. And then of course she goes to like this downward spiral, because her whole concept is that I need to go to Las Vegas for this bodybuilding competition, because this is where I'm going to make it and get made. So she's so obsessed with this that she loses like all sight of like who her friends are, what her relationships is, and she just keeps going on this downward spiral. It's like one bad decision after another, and it's like you want to kind of like identify her like in a sympathetic way, but at the same time you just want to smack her upside the head. She keeps doing dumb shit over and over again, and Kirsten Stewart's the one who's essentially there trying to like pick up the pieces of all of her like mess ups and stuff like that. So I did find out to be a very interesting dynamic that those two shared, because I think we kind of compared this to, what was it, Drive Away Dolls a few weeks ago. How it's like, oh, you just got two lesbian kind of road trip movies happening simultaneously. Now, I think this film makes Drive Away Dolls look even more dog shit by comparison, but that's a whole other conversation. But what do you think about, essentially, like the big selling point was kind of the queer love story that they were selling here? Do you think that they kind of front ended that, thinking that it was going to win them representation? Because at the end of the day, once the story gets going there, I mean, yeah, they're lesbians, but that's not really the true focus of what the film actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie is much more focused on genre thrills and sort of
Mm-hmm.
story beats, and just showing these characters as human beings at the end of the day. I mean, they kind of get caught up in this love affair, and then they have to like clean up a murder, and then and then Brian's character kind of goes fucking insane. Um, and I'm surprised they went to the DV route, where she basically headbutts Kristen Stewart and makes her starts bleeding. It's like, because I mean, just speaking from personal experience and speaking from just stereotypes, there's a lot of domestic violence in the lesbian
I
partnership
did make
world.
a note about that in my review too. It's like, hey, at least they're being authentic, because yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot that.
So I liked it, because a lot of the violence was brutal and caught your attention, and it doesn't pull punches, and it doesn't take opportunities to like score virtue signaling points about being a gay movie or whatever. I mean, you have stupid and funny characters, you have awful sociopathic characters. I thought it was interesting. Dave Franco is like a wife beater. He's a piece of shit, and he's still
Mhm.
treated with like humanity. He still feels like a real character for the most part. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Like
it's like
I don't
he's
know
a
if he
dirt bag, but like he's working from a criminal organization, so you wouldn't really expect him to be good either.
Right. And it's weird, because you see him constantly drinking, and I didn't know if it was like a key where he only beats up Jenna Malone when he's been drinking, or he needs like the liquid courage to get up to that point. I didn't quite catch that, but
He needs the liquid curse or beating his
to
wife.
beat his wife, yeah. He's that much of a wimp. So yeah, I mean, and then there's the where like those guys are trying to hit on Katie O'Brien, and she ends up like rebuffing their advances, and the guy punches her in the face. It's
Yeah,
just like, holy shit.
cracks her like this.
So the movie, like, I like a lot of those creative decisions, just because they are surprising, and that's what helps them separate themselves from things like Drive Away Dolls, which is just like was a complete dumpster fire.
Oh yeah. Oh, what do you think about Kirsten Stewart in this movie? Because it's like her character. While I think there's layers of authenticity with her character, I don't really buy her as the role that she's supposed to be playing here. Because she's supposed to be playing like the daughter of a mob boss who's seen and done some things, right? She's supposed to kind of be somewhat relatable, but also a hardened criminal at the same time. I'm not sure if that portion of her character really got sold, even with the scenes with her and Ed Harris in the movie.
She's kind of a towny dirtbag.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think of her in a lot of ways like Margaret Qualley's character in Drive Away Dolls.
Yeah,
But who's like,
without the really stupid accent, obviously.
yeah, sometimes I sleep with that dumb blonde bitch who I have to like, make forget what she saw that night.
Meth teeth, as I like to call her.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's some of that. I will say this. I think she was okay, but there's too many times when I thought to myself, she just looks like a dispossessed teenager. She looks like she's playing a Joan Jett character, on the edge of town or whatever.
It's because she's so small, like just in stature. Like Katie O'Brien, believe it or not, she's actually not that tall. They make her look bigger in the film, but I think she's only like 5'3" or something like that. Like she's not like a tall person, even though she's like built. But Kirsten Stewart is like such a small, petite character. And it's like when she has like the 1980s lesbian hair, like the rolled up like biker shirt. It's like I don't really like buy her as the character that she's supposed to be like in the context of the film.
I'm pretty sure, and I did not catch this. Maybe I was not paying attention enough, but I didn't catch the year this takes place in. It feels like the early 90s.
It was 89, so it was like
89.
literally right at the last year of the 80s. Yeah.
Okay. See, this does such a better job of that than Lisa Frankenstein did. Same 1989, same thing,
and didn't have to pander. It didn't have to pander with the soundtrack and like the visual aesthetics. Like, oh, you guys need to know that this was the 80s, man. It was all neon and what was it, rhythmic and stuff like that. It's like, no, like you don't have to like do that. We understand that this is like 1989, but
yeah,
that's what happens when you have slightly better filmmakers. So
yeah, this I liked this movie quite a bit. I just had issues when we got to the end.
And then went a little bit more artistic towards the end.
Yeah, because it was pretty much a straight for what I consider a straight neo noir. Looking back though, I guess there's some instances of like whatever body horror and like there's surreal aspects to like where the fuck are the cops? Does he own all the cops? Like what happened to the FBI that showed up and like
dude, I'm just so at one point
story elements just didn't add up.
At one point, like 2 people got shot in her apartment in broad daylight, and not a single cop ever showed up to like inquire, right? Like one girl gets her brains blown out right at the front porch in front of everyone, like you couldn't like miss it. And then even then, it's like there was a shootout that was going on. Like no one hears any of these gunshots. Like they're not using silencers.
Yeah, and so and I mean Ed Harris, his hair in this is pretty wild. Like he has this long, stringy, like Randall Flagg type hair. If you've seen or read The Stand, it's that kind of thing where it's just like, okay, man, he's good. He's good in it. He's menacing. He's mean son of a bitch. So
my only problem with Ed Harris is that I don't believe that they utilized him well enough. He should have been a deeper part of the story. Like he's only there like really sparingly, and that's just kind of established that he's kind of like the town bad guy. But I thought they left a lot on the table with him. They should have went in a little bit more with him because when he's there, like he's actually really good, but they just don't use him as much as they probably should. So
yeah, in the beginning, especially with the use of a lot of that red light, I thought of Mandy quite a bit. So I don't know if you've seen the Nicolas Cage movie, but that movie was just kind of like soaked in that red light, like the tail light color. And so yeah, there's a lot of style to this. I think it's fun. It's it's a crime movie. It's simple, but I think it keeps its audience engaged for the most part. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see what Katie O'Brien does next. I thought she was good. I did think that she stood out more than Kristen Stewart did. Where you kind of she was kind of the missing piece where it's like she's kind of unpredictable. You don't know what she's going to do. You don't know where she's going to show up. And kind of being an unknown, that I think that actually helps the movie.
Yeah. She did have like a slight like Mario Lopez like type thing like going throughout the course of this film too, which was kind of like, funny for me. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like, she, I think makes the film a lot better than it would have been like otherwise. Like I said, her character does have a little bit more intrigue in the film that keeps audiences more engaged with the story, especially like towards the ending where you're trying to like figure out like, hey, where exactly is this gonna go? Like, are we going to go like straight Thelma and Louise here, where they both drive off a cliff and do a suicide pact together, or like what's happening here? And listen, the ending is probably going to split with some people because it does take a more artistic decision, or I guess path
License,
towards the more creative license with the ending, which may or may not work with some people. There was also, I think, even though it was implied about Kirsten Stewart's her character's past with her father, some of the things she may or may not have done, like it was implied, but we didn't really get a full context of that story either. So there's a few things here that were left on the table for the most part. But I will say this: the reason why I will give this film more credit than like other LGBTQ films, like put it this way, like Bros or Drive Away Dolls, that we talked about, right? Those films, it's just like, okay, we're just gonna put two gay people together, and then that's the movie. Like they're just gonna be gay, and then we're not gonna really like focus on anything else because representation is all that we're here for, right? This film actually committed to a story and committed to a story that you can follow, that's actually intriguing, and it does more than just be like, okay, well, these two are gay and that's all that we have here, so enjoy the next hour and 50 minutes of your life. It's like, no, this film actually tried, it actually put together something that was coherent, that was very interesting. I think that it still dropped the ball creatively on a few decisions that I would have liked to have them improved on. But overall, I still think that this film gets a lot more right than it gets wrong. Um, I would have toned down on some of the sex scene only because I just think that it took away from the story that was being told here. Like, I think at the end of the day, it really didn't matter like too much. Like, if you only have like one or two, I mean, fine, like whatever. But especially like they front loaded it in the first half of the movie and then like forgot about it in the second half. I just thought that was probably not a great decision. But yeah, for this film, I think I liked it. There's not really too much to say negatively about this story. Like I said, I do like Katie O'Brien. I do like the presence that she has in this film too. Kirsten Stewart, it's kind of like hit or miss with me. Some things, I'll be honest, I don't think I've been really that impressed with anything Kirsten Stewart has really done. Like, there's not like a role here that I could point back to. It's like, oh yeah, she was like really like great in that. Like, I don't think she's been like terrible in like a lot of films, but I just don't like see her as a character that I'm like, oh yeah, she's like enthralling to me like at all. So, but I'll like I said, I'll give this
not even Spencer.
no. Nah, absolutely not. I was trying to think of like what was the last like good movie that I saw her in. I know she was in that film Underwater like a few years ago, like right before the pandemic, and I thought that film got better in the second half, but the first half was like really really bad, and I didn't really give it that much credit. But outside of that, like I can't think of like anything that I've seen her in. And I was like, oh yeah, like she hit a home run like that. Maybe The Runaways, maybe, but that's about as far back as I can like point to. But that's just this my personal feeling on Kirsten Stewart. I'm gonna go ahead and give this film a solid 3 out of 5. I think it's a good movie. We know with A24 films, it's very hit or miss because it's not like they get like the same style directors and writers a lot of these films. So some of these movies are like really really good, like the Iron Claw, and then some of these movies are like bodies, or just like the worst things you ever seen like in your entire life. So it's not a consistent studio like whatsoever. They just pretty much throw whatever they possibly can out there. But this is one of the better ones. So yeah, I'll give it a solid 3 out of 5 here with this film. Rob, what's your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I mean, I complain about this all the time with movies not being interesting as visual works of art. This movie definitely gives you that. They give you it. Rose Glass gives you composition and framing and cool editing details, and it's loaded with this sort of neon soaked kind of neo noir aesthetic. I really this is the kind of movie that is up my alley, is what I talk about when I talk about genre films and what they give you. I do think some of the weaknesses are in sort of the overall plot. just the characters, which again, in this sort of murder mystery type of detective movie, which this is not a detective movie, but it's at least adjacent. You know, not all the pieces necessarily always fit, and that's kind of part of the appeal. But then the ending with like the lovers kind of, you know, having this mystical escape, and then like not ever having to like face their shit. I'm like, okay, they're gonna like the cops are eventually gonna catch up with them and kill him, right? Like that's probably what's gonna happen. So I mean, it's fine, but the ending just feels a little like it's drifting off into dreamland, which it gives you some of those clues as it's surreality, and it's sort of like horror aspects of Katie O'Brien's character's transformation and using the steroids and all that. Like I think some of that is there, but it just doesn't quite like succinctly wrap things up. And the ending is one of the hardest parts to a movie. So I don't think that's it's not a big thing, but I definitely take points off for it. But yeah, a lot of style, fun, violence, keeps you engaged with it. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
All right, Rick, any thoughts or questions about this film as a complete bystander?
No.
Okay, that's great because I was going to ask you anyway. So yeah, so that's our second film here tonight. So two down, and like I said, there's definitely flaws with both of these movies that we talked about here, but there is, I think, a lot more good than there is bad with the film. So it's definitely more worth your time than a lot of other movies we talked about here on this show. But we have to end things on a sour note because we did see one final movie here this weekend, and it was the American Society of Magical Negroes. So, Rob, you did not see this movie, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you should have fun here with this film. Rick, you did see this movie. This is your only assignment this week. I also saw this film, and I regret every minute I sat here in the theater. Where should I start off here? Because there's actually a couple things I need to address before we even talk about the film in and of itself. The person who wrote and directed this film, his name is Kobe Levi, who is known for fucking nothing. Like he's literally has nothing in his writing credit. That even if I told you, you probably would have never seen it. Like his claim to fame is that he was a cast member on Jordan Clapper's show on Comedy Central a handful of years ago, and that's about it. Like he literally has nothing else outside of that.
That's not helpful because I don't know who Jordan Clapper is.
He's one of the mini series of Daily Show clones out there, and if you've seen one Daily Show clone, whether it's Colbert or Oliver or Noah or B and all these other people, you've seen them all. It's the exact same show. There's no creativity to it like whatsoever. Sounds like Black Harry Potter Bear. Yes, exactly.
That would have been better than we thought.
It literally would have been better. So, for some reason, Focus Features gave him the keys to the castle here and let him direct and write his own movie, even though he's literally not done anything that you would have pointed out. Like, there's nothing here. Absolutely nothing here from start to finish. But that's kind of besides the point. I think after watching this film, I might have to say that Justice Smith, who is the lead for this film, he might be my second least favorite actor in Hollywood outside of Seth Rogen. And I will say this, at least Seth Rogen is somewhat tolerable on screen versus Justice Smith. Justice Smith, if you guys don't know who this guy is, he's been in a few films you probably have seen here, but he's basically the go-to guy for when Hollywood wants a black effeminate man on their screen. He's the one who was in all those Jurassic World movies where he's basically just there screaming and crying like a little girl the entire time. Like he was screaming so much in Fallen Kingdom, I literally wanted to like throw rocks at the screen if I had rocks in my pocket. That's how bad he was in that movie. I've yet to see him in a single film that I've actually enjoyed. I know our good friend Sarah put over Sharper, which I believe came out last year, and he's in that one. I can't imagine he's part of the best part of that film. I absolutely despise this guy. the antithesis of like every no he is like the textbook example of everything I don't like in a Hollywood actor. So he just bothers me, and then he's in this film, which makes it like even worse, like even like 1,000 times worse. What do you think of Justice Smith as an actor before we even get into anything else about this
Well,
film?
I've seen him in just Fallen Kingdom and a little bit of the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I didn't finish. It's one of only 3 films that I have never finished. I think he is. I know this might be a strange comment, but all I kept thinking of is he's like the Black Woody Allen. The word nebbish just comes to mind. It's a good Yiddish term, and that's what he is. And it's almost hard to tell at this point if if he's acting or if he's being, because to me is a total nebbish. He just like forever weak, halting in his delivery. Just in the very beginning when he always seems so hesitant and like, oh, well, why am I here? Like, okay, like he's that way almost throughout the entire film, and he's no different in Fallen Kingdom. He's pretty much the same. So I'm not sure he can actually act. He's never proven. And in the little bits that I saw of Dungeons and Dragons, he was pretty much that way too. So it's like he either plays the same character or he is playing
He's
himself.
he's the most insufferable person I think I've seen in Hollywood in quite some time. It's like I don't want to say he's worse than Seth Rogen because like I really despise Seth Rogen, but he's getting to the point where I'm going to say he's worse than Seth Rogen. Like that's how bad this guy is. Like I said, he's the guy you go to get an effeminate gay male as a lead in your story because he's biracial, he's gay. I'm sorry, he's queer. He's not gay, whatever that means. But and then every role he does, he's always that screaming, feminine, annoying character, and that's just all he is in every single movie. And I'm just like, my God, like, can we literally like just stop with this
Well, I don't
dude?
think he. No, I'm sorry. I don't think he screamed in this one. He yelled, but he didn't scream.
Oh, he had a meltdown towards the end, which we'll get to here in a
Yes.
second. But let's go
Yes.
ahead and start off with the concept of this movie. So he plays Aren in this film, and he's a art exhibitor who decided to create like some kind of like yarn display, and shocker, nobody understands it and even less people want to buy it. So that's kind of like his whole life, is that he's a failed artist living in LA. Nobody respects this guy whatsoever. He's a pushover. He's the textbook definition of a beta male in every stretch of the word,
He's a
right?
nebbish. He's a nebbish.
I would have returned pussy, but I guess that works too if you want to be a little bit more PG. But so in this film, he's like talking to some girl like an ATM, and because he doesn't have like a backbone to say, hey, you're drunk, go away, leave me alone, or anything like that, he tries to help this girl, almost gets himself into a fight because it looks like, or appears like, he steals the girl's wallet even though he doesn't. But then David Allen Greer shows up, and at the last moment he recruits him to be a member of the American Society of Magical Negroes. So we all know what the Magical Negro stereotype is. This is one that people like Spike Lee have been complaining about for quite some time. It's essentially the black supporting character who assists the white protagonist like in a movie, right? And for whatever reason this has upset people over the course of the last several decades. So now it's become a term and a meme essentially. So the whole concept of this film is that there's a society of underground magical black people who go around to assist white people to make them comfortable, because if they don't keep white people comfortable, black people are going to die, because when
Yes.
white people get uncomfortable, black people die. That's just the way that the world works, right? So we're already starting off on a premise that's gaslighting on steroids, right? Because we know that this is not actually how the world works. All you have to do is go on to Twitter for no more than 2 minutes to know that this is a complete fabrication. But this is the concept of this film here. Just because Justice Smith is such a beta male and such a pushover, he's been selected here to join this society because he's so great at keeping white people comfortable, because he's basically the most non-threatening black person you could possibly think of. So they say, okay, you go to this ad agency and you help this white guy because he's on the edge of his white tears meter. There's quite literally a white tears meter to show just how upset white people are getting here. So he has to go and make this guy comfortable so I guess black people don't die, because that's the concept of this movie. And in the course of this, he falls for some girl who also works at the organization, but he's not allowed to be with this girl because he has to put, as a magical Negro, he has to put the feelings of the white guy first. And that's how this world works. And this is the concept of the movie. So on the one half of this film, it's blatant racism, in every stretch of the imagination. Then on the other side, you have this absolutely phony love story between Justice Smith and this woman who has no chemistry whatsoever, because at no point in this film do you believe that he is interested in women. At no point in this film do you believe that he's heterosexual. And the whole film rides on this love story between him and this chick for like an hour and 40 minutes. So that was my concept, my early thoughts about this movie. Rick, what did you think about the setup of the magical world of Society of Negroes or whatever?
I was perpetually puzzled as to why David Allen Greer would recruit such a nebbish to be in this organization. He did nothing in the opening when we go to the art exhibit, and he's kind of hesitant to walk around, and then he stands by his yarn work. I'm thinking, well, first off, it's ugly. It's the first thought in my mind. It's ugly. The artwork is ugly and it's pointless. So no wonder no one wants it. Not even in LA, where they'll just accept any kind of modern art, especially by a minority. And the gallery owner was right to say, if you're not going to stand up for your work, I'm not going to stand up for it either. So there's nothing in Aren's character that will make me say, "Oh yes, he would be the perfect person." And it just happens so quickly. That's one problem that this movie has. The setup is done so quickly, where yeah, okay, we're just gonna pick you, we're going to recruit you, we're going to give you like these classes where we're going to parody the Green Mile. And by the way, that was something I've never seen, the Green Mile or the whole thing, and I pretty much recognized the parody right there, of like the large black man helping the white guy who's the white cop. So there's nothing here. This character is not interesting, and actually, what I thought was, in any other movie, when Aaron and the girl Lizzie, when they meet, that would be the beginning of like a meet cute, almost Hallmark type movie where he's so much of a nebbish that he spills coffee on her, and I'm surprised she didn't sue. Well, she didn't burn herself. Maybe it was iced coffee. Point being, I mean, that would have been an interesting story. I kept thinking, if they had set up like this sort of love story or love triangle with him working with maybe an actual friend and her, maybe we would have had something. But no, they just had to go into all these stories about
Well,
the
here's your problem, Rick. And you're not wrong, but here's the problem with your scenario. If they had done that, they would have no angle to attack white people throughout the course of the entire movie.
well,
Right.
yes, if that's the whole raison d'être to make this movie. And I don't think the thing is that, like, David Allen Greer, his character says that, white people always feel uncomfortable, and I could tell how uncomfortable you were. I think it's more an Aaron problem than it is a black person problem, because he's just so hesitant when he's walking. I don't have that hesitancy as a minority. When I've walked into many rooms full of black people, white people, Mexicans, what have you, I don't have that hesitancy or that belief that every white person is like afraid of me or hostile to
Well,
me,
that's
or the
because you're
black
not
person.
black, Rick. You don't understand the black experience. Living in the United States of America, you have to live every day that white people just want you dead.
But that
Yes,
guy
yes.
is like basically white. Like I hate the elephant in the room. Like I've seen the trailer 3 or 4 times now.
Hmm.
He has all the characteristics and mannerisms of a white guy. And I'm not
Well,
trying to be racial here, but and by the way, I said racial, not racist, but racial in the sense that what we're
well,
talking about is black culture
Rob,
and specifically inner city black culture,
all right,
aka thugs. So and
Rob,
he's not that. So you know what I mean.
Rob,
So
Hmm.
there you
real,
go.
real quick. It's in a blink and you miss it moment. Aaron mentions that his mother's white. but it plays absolutely no role in this whole movie.
By the way, and this is what really starts to like really piss me off and infuriate me. We talked about the director and writer of this film, Kobe Labrie, whatever his name is. If you there's an interview he recently did here in Atlanta with Hiram Justice Smith. They look like identical twins. So when you see these two next to each other, you realize, oh wait, this idiot actually just made a film about himself and his feelings, and Justice Smith is basically the stand-in for him, the actual director of this film. And so what this is quite literally another self-insert of a guy who's not nearly as interesting as he thinks that he is, and then wonders why this entire film falls apart to begin with. Because this is what. Go ahead.
The actor and the director, they're both biracial. Both,
Yep.
I believe, both their parents. I think one parent is black, one parent is white. So, but
Or
it's
as
curious.
Jason Whitlock would call them, African Americans. But keep on.
Okay, but I'll say that it was a surprising comment that Aren makes when he takes the cop to the club, or he tells David Alan Grier is like, oh well, you know, my mother's white. It's a really blink and you miss it. It's irrelevant to everything. So it just seemed a strange thing to mention just offhand. So what was the point of saying, oh, you know, I'm biracial if it's not even going to be part? I mean, do the Magical Society of Negroes let biracial people in, or is it like, or is it, do you have to? I mean, do you have to have like a certain percentage? It's a strange concept.
Is this like
Yeah,
black gatekeeping? Like this is like black people telling other black people to not do things because it'll make white people uncomfortable.
Well,
That's what it sounds like.
Rob, you watched Sons of Anarchy, right? Remember, like
Yeah.
the whole arc with Juice at one point in the season was like his father was black and he thought that he was going to get kicked out of the group because he's
Theo
actually
Rossi.
biracial. Yeah,
Yeah.
Theo Rossi, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's the same concept here, except for because it's black people that are doing it, it's okay. And here's the writer and director sitting next to Justice Smith, so you can see that is quite literally he's just a stand-in for Cody Libri in this film. So
Is that Chris Broussard? No,
it's no, not quite as reddish hair, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I
almost
mean,
gets-
there are other things that they mentioned that really are relevant. For example, and I don't know if this is to drag Thomas Jefferson into this. Remember that they go to Monticello and then they say that the origin of the magical Negro was when with Jefferson's slaves. So I'm presuming that they meant Sally Heming.
Mhm.
What does that have to do with anything? That's not even a trope.
But see, it's so I have a question. Is this a parody movie? Because the premise,
no.
how
No.
it's set up almost sounds like it's pure parody, not even
No.
satire. Because again, to be satire, you have to be satirizing something. And so if your goal is to just beat up white people while joking about how hard it is for black people, it's like it doesn't
So here's
equal
the
anything.
thing. These new directors, these ones that have grown up in the age of like Black Lives Matter and Rodney King and Michael Brown and all this old nonsense, right? They don't know how to actually satirize race. So we look at I think you guys might have been here for a few of these films. I look back like 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, when you had people like Robert Townsend and Keevan Ivory Wayans who would like find like really funny ways to satirize race in like their community. So they made films like Hollywood Shuffle. I think Rick, you saw that film
Yeah.
a few weeks back. I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. We saw that film a while back ago. Some like the earlier films like Drinking Your Juice like in the Hood and like even House Party to it in a sense if you really want to get into it. There was always ways of going about, you know, talking about race relations or satirizing race relations, but still doing it in the context of making an entertaining movie and actually doing it in a way that was actually funny and like actually like witful, right? These people don't know how to do. Like I said, these are Daily Show writers essentially, so they don't have the ability to talk about race relations in a way that's actually funny but still making a point. So what you're doing here is that you're just portraying pure racism throughout the course of the film, and then you think by the very end of it, by having Justice Smith go on quite literally America Ferrera type Barbie like
Exactly.
rant at the end of the film, talking about like, you don't know what it's like for me as a black man in America to wake up and not know if you're gonna die because some white guy's like what are we, what the fuck, and they wonder why. Like they say, oh, don't worry, this is a satire. It's like, no, this is not a
No.
satire.
No,
This is your true feelings that you wrote into the script, and you call it a satire, so that when people call you out for your blatant racism, you just go, hey guys, it's just a comedy I'm making here. No, don't take this seriously.
No, exactly. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I literally wrote in my notes. Well, I wrote ugly sweater in. Okay, this is actually the way I wrote it. Ugly sweater in her. Then I slashed it in his Barbie moment. That
Yeah,
was his actual Barbie moment when he's at the end of the stage. When he's at the stage, and the white guy is going to do the presentation to cover up some sort of scandal, and it's about diversity. So they have to bring him in because they're going to show that they're diverse by having a black man on the stage with them in a very ugly sweater that I thought first was torn, and then I thought, wait, did he knit this? You see that?
To
That's
quote
not
Yeah.
Jack
sweater.
Black, it's a Cosby sweater.
No, it's not.
it's
Okay,
actually
well,
worse. It's actually worse.
But I just first off, I thought it was an ugly sweater. But I actually thought this is a Barbie moment where he gets to go on some sort of rant about the country that wants him dead. You know what?
Yeah.
Such an absurdity because the country does not want him dead. The country, some people in the country want to give him money in form of reparations for things that happened
But
long before he was even born.
this is the black progressive left wing bubble. Like we saw this with Barbie. That was like the white feminist bubble, like in Hollywood. This is the black progressive bubble in Hollywood, where they've convinced themselves that all white people hate them, that all people are just get off on the thought of just killing a black person, and that every day they have to live in siege due to black people, due to white people, right? That they don't live in any kind of context. It's like, hey, maybe you guys ever think that why is your own neighborhoods are the most dangerous places to actually live in? Because it's not the white suburban kids who are going around shooting you and your child and leaving you as a wife, or let's be honest, a wife. These people aren't married. It's like not leaving them like
Widow.
childless. No, not even widow, because like I said, these people don't get married. But it's not the white suburban kids leaving you guys childless at the age of like 15 years old. It's like it's people in your own community. It's like, look at the statistics. You guys are being killed by your own people. That's what it really comes down to. But you're gaslighting everyone to make it seem like, oh, it's just all the white cops that are in the world. That's why our birth rates are plummeting right now, because the white cops and the white man just keep killing us. And if it just wasn't for that, we'd be flourishing right now. It's like, no.
And that's why you need the magical Negro. Now, the magical Negro trope is the black character exists solely to help the white protagonist. Here, it's not really. He's not so much helping as in he's doing it to keep him sedate or keep her sedate enough so that they won't go out and kill. Because naturally, if a white person is agitated, their first response is to go and kill a black person. I mean that they
Mhm.
won't,
the FBI crime statistics would disagree with that.
well,
Yeah.
apparently not. Apparently not in this movie. I mean, I would have thought white people, if they're agitated, to the point of losing it, they'd probably just go listen to Taylor Swift. It's what white people do. But apparently not. Apparently, they, if Rob just having a really bad day, the first instinct will be to go out there and
Can you imagine that? Like Daniel Powders have a bad day, playing
But it's like
just a lynching or something.
exactly.
And here, the thing is, look, you see this character here. I don't know who this person is. I don't know the actress, and I
It's
don't know the
the
character.
representation of a fat black woman who leads the black community. It's basically a representation of the matriarchal society for black people. Every time.
Oh, like the governor of Georgia? Is that
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams?
Yeah, or like all the other ones, because
But the
there's
point is,
several.
There's not a real setup to this world as to I don't know why this woman
There's
is
no
ahead.
story here. Like let's be clear. There's no story here. Like he gets recruited to be a member of this group, and then it just parallels to like him in this like weird like love triangle with like this white guy and the girl who he has absolutely no chemistry with like whatsoever. At no point do you think that these two are actually like in love or nothing like that. And it's not even interesting enough to keep that element of the story to it. And then he has to keep like yo-yoing back to the magical Negro society to make you be like, oh yeah, his job is supposed to be to make white people comfortable. Let's not forget that. But it's like this movie is so poorly paced, and like I said, it lives in a completely different reality.
What's interesting is that at one point, Jason, the white guy,
Hmm.
says that, "Oh, I didn't know Lizzie was ethnic." And I'm thinking, first, I don't know how anyone really refers to someone as ethnic. And I guess because she's not white, quote unquote, I guess it's all right if he has a relationship with her, or Aren has a relationship with her, because I don't know, understand the logic there. It's irrelevant. And here's the thing: in the beginning, when he was at the art show, he's the one that's moving and trying to avoid people. But I think it's, again, more an Aaron problem, because all the other white people there, they really don't seem to care, and I don't
Hmm.
think they would
And
care if he's
the only
black.
person he's getting crap from is like the owner of the gallery, who's like, "You need to sell your art, or you got to get out of here." It's like, and that's like, I'm sorry that if you're like trying to like sell art, that's a boss problem, not oh, this white person's just mean to me because I'm black. It's like,
Yeah,
no.
and I actually agreed with her. It's like, and first off, I thought the art was ugly. I mean, it's basically just yarn. Maybe that's why I said he knitted his own sweater, because it's ugly. It's like just a big pole that has yarn on it. That's his art. And I know modern art is really awful nowadays, but there's nothing there. It's irrelevant. There's nothing here. And then that whole bit in the first part about when they have to keep the white cop down, because obviously if the white cop is upset, he's going to go and kill an unarmed black man, which is
Yeah.
what all white cops do. I mean, that's their whole reason for being.
Because the white cop didn't feel respected by his peer. He's just going to go out there and kill a Tyrone somewhere. Like that's the setup of this whole, like I said, this whole thing lives in such a alternative reality. This whole idea that, hey, we got to keep white people calm, because if they don't get, if they're not calm and they get a little upset, things go wild. People start dying. It's like, have you looked at our country over the last 60 years? Like who would come to that conclusion? Did you not just forget about the whole summer of love that happened a few months ago because black people got uncomfortable about the fate of a drug dealer or a drug user in Minnesota? Did anyone forget about what happened there, where virtually every city in America was on fire for like 4 months and like 60 people died? Did you guys forget about that?
Stop
no,
Asian hate. Remember that one?
that
Which
was
is still going. A dude just got shot in the face in Brooklyn yesterday in front of an entire train. It's like, go back to the Rodney King riots, go back to the Watts riots. It's like, it's not the white people who get angry and then things go upset. It's the black people who get angry and then things go completely awry
no,
here. But you're trying to gaslight people into with
no,
these
no, no,
films and then
no.
thinking that no,
The,
it's the
the
opposite side.
only riot that has ever occurred in the United States was Tulsa. That's the only riot that has ever occurred in the United States. That
Mm-hmm.
and January 6th. Those are the only riots that have ever occurred in the United States.
Yeah,
There
the
was
January 6th riot, where the only person who got shot was by a cop.
Yeah, but it is interesting. They do mention it. I noted in my notes that one of the things that the owner, I mean, that the owner of this facial recognition system, which
Mm-hmm.
caused a scandal because it couldn't recognize anyone in Ghana. And
Hmm.
so there's the proof that
Yeah,
it's
so
racist.
the facial recognition didn't recognize black people, so they had to delay the launch in Ghana, and that was supposed to be that's because you guys don't have enough diversity in your office. If you guys had enough diversity, this wouldn't have happened, right? So,
Well, is the filmmaker trying to suggest that white people, going back to that whole idea that, quote, all black people look the same? Is that why they couldn't recognize the people? And
so,
who
so
really cares about? I'm sorry, but Ghana is like, we're supposed to be upset that the facial recognition. I'm not even big on facial recognition at all, but
First of all, why is it something that you want? Like, they're trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, facial recognition software. It sucks that Ghana will be the last one to get this. Like, they probably wouldn't want it even if they did get it. But this is the catalyst to our ending for this film. So the ending here, like I said, there's no story. No one cares about the love story of this movie. The ending of this film happens when this guy right here is doing like a presentation. He's trying to guess repair the image from the last snafu, and he goes up to Justice Smith. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm glad you're here because the topic of this presentation is diversity." And Justice Smith just completely like melts down. Right? He's like, "Oh, so you only have me here because I'm black and you're doing words on diversity?" And the guy's like, "Dude, I didn't say any of that at all." So he just starts rattling off this 5 to 10 minute monologue, which is just nothing but pure projection. And then this poor guy over here, who's supposed to be the bad guy of the film, is sitting here like, dude, like, what are you talking about? I didn't say any of this, but I guess he didn't understand his applied racial bias and white privilege to understand that he was actually in the wrong in this whole scenario. So Justice is just having a complete meltdown on behalf of the audience. This is what I mean about this is not actually satire. This is the writer, Kobe, had a complete emotional meltdown towards the end of the film. He wrote that into the script, and he wanted the whole world to know that this is exactly how he feels about being a half black person in the United States of America, because the whole concept of this film is that black people hate white people, they hate this country, and the only message of this movie is stop killing us. And then that's the film.
Because everyone, this country wants Aren dead.
Yeah.
And again, there's some sort of running gag where the queen of the magical Negroes can't float. She literally can't float anymore. So she has to be carried.
Yeah, because she's the godlike figure in this movie. But the other, like, I guess, trope here is that, if one of the Negroes disobeys orders, then everyone loses their magic powers. So she has to, like, keep coming back and sitting on, like, ladders and stuff like that, because somebody in this room has caused me not to float up in the air above all you guys. Which one of you guys did it? It's like, what are we doing here? Like, what is this?
But who is this person? Why should we care? Why should we even be interested in that she loses her powers? I think I wrote that down. Like, who cares? It's irrelevant to me. I don't understand any. I don't understand any of this. But yeah, so I don't know that. But I was just perplexed as to why. Again, I go back to this point. It's not a black issue, at least from what I saw. It's an Aren issue, because Aren is, again, such a nebbish that I think black people would probably avoid him.
Hey, Aren's not a nebbish. You know what Aren is?
Baby back, bitch. Baby back, bitch. It's a big ass robot. Yeah.
That's what Aren is.
But again, it's his own discomfort, because first off, I find it hard to believe that he finds only white spaces or only places where only white people are there, because I don't think he really associates with anyone other than the Magical Negro Club. I don't think he actually even associates with any black people, which is very strange, because that's not my. I mean, I guess my life.
What is even like the message of this film? Just go out there to like a random white people and have an emotional meltdown about how you want to live, and you go talk to someone who's not trying to kill you. Is that what we have to take away of this film?
Yeah, but I mean, Lizzie has a better case to be upset, because she's the one that created that program or whatever, and she's being denied that possibility to present to the president of the company, because they want, I guess, the male to do it, the white male to do it. But
that's the other like, I guess, the revelation here, and who cares, because no one's gonna see this movie anyway. The revelation is that turns out that Lizzie is also a member of a secret organization called the Secret Society of Supported Wives and Girlfriends, aka So Swag.
So Swag, the Society of Supported Wives and Girlfriends, which doesn't even make any sense, because she is neither. She's not a wife and she's not a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. She's not a girlfriend to Aren or a girlfriend to Jason. She's not a wife to either. So how is she a member of this Society of Supportive Wives and Girlfriends when she is not a wife or a girlfriend? How did she get that?
Because the person who wrote this movie is a complete hack fraud.
Well, I know the movie ended at that part, because Aren magically spirits her away to New York, it was supposed to be a very romantic, to the Empire State Building, and I guess he just leaves her there, so she has to find her way back to LA, and then he says, "Oh, I'm a member of a secret, magical society." "Oh, so am I," so she says, and so we all supposed to play it off as like some sort of joke that they don't, they take serious.
Sequel. So like at the end of 500 Days of Summer, when he meets Autumn, it's like, I fucking hate you. This movie was so good, and you had to fucking ruin it with that ending, didn't you? Anyway.
Really? I thought it worked. Like,
it's supposed to be cute, but it just annoyed the shit out of me. So.
Nah, I thought it worked. But I don't think it's a sequel so much as an, oh, you're gonna get a twist. Oh, but but what did she do? She was not a supportive wife. She wasn't a supportive girlfriend. Why did they even put that in?
Yeah,
I
she
guess
belongs to a big club called the Suppressive People Club. I'll just let you guys decipher that one.
Well, you
but
get it.
but the whole idea.
Yeah, look, here's what this film just really comes down to at the end of the day. This is just racist dribble written by a writer, all of it, writer, director, producer, actor. This guy's just an absolute fraud, and Focus should be ashamed of themselves for putting this crap in movie theaters. I know it's not doing well; it deserves the bomb. I'm just gonna say this right now. I think I'm pretty strongly in saying that this is the worst movie that I've seen all year long, because I'm looking at like the movies that I've given a 0 out of 5 to so far, and so far I've given them 4 other movies. It was Drive Away Dolls, Madam Web, Lisa Frankenstein, and The Book of Clarence. And I think that this film has the absolute least that you can be considered enjoyable out of all of those films. Even all of those movies that I gave 0 out of 5 to have at least something there that's more redeemable about this movie. This is a terribly written film, a terribly directed film. The the lead actor here is an absolute beta male. There's nothing redeemable about this. There's not one single thing I could point to be like, well, at least they had no. All of this is bad. All of this is completely bad. This is a 0 out of 5. This is the worst film that I've seen so far this year.
Well, I guess you didn't see Argyle, because I would still
no. Argyle. This is way worse than Argyle. Absolutely not.
No, I still would watch this over Argyle, but it's like
based on what?
Based on, I guess.
This film has no story, no star power.
Lizzie's nice. That's I mean, that's as much as I can.
No story, no star power, no talent in acting, no talent in directing, no talent in writing. Like, this has nothing. And I'm not even defending Argyle. I'm just saying that Argyle had something, one thing. This film has absolutely nothing. It doesn't even have like at least the decency to at least be like less than 90 minutes long. It doesn't even have that.
Well, I mean, no, you know what? It does have one positive, I guess, for me, in that I think I pretty much nodded off at a certain point until, and my memory tells me that I woke up when Aren started yelling about how America wanted him dead, because America genuinely cares who this person is. I mean, nobody cares. I mean, if he, not to say harsh, but if he died, I don't think many people would even care or notice, and he wouldn't be killed because he was black. But that's interesting that the film,
he's not even, he's like half black. It's like, stop trying to be full black so you can get the full oppression card. It's like, your mom's white. Shut up.
But it's interesting, when they're at the ATM and the girl is there, and then she says, "Oh, I've lost my, they've stolen my ATM," and her boyfriend and the other guy run up. One of them stops the other, I guess the boyfriend, from like, "Oh, you have a photo shoot tomorrow," which I thought was such a strange thing to say. So
keep in mind, this film is so bad, even like the left-wing media types can't even defend it. This has like 30% on Rotten Tomatoes right now with the critics. And you know what the subject matter of this film, where they're absolutely terrified to say anything bad against it because they will be deemed a racist by their own standards. For them to come out and trash this movie the way they are, it's really bad.
Oh no, well, I saw one review this afternoon when I got back and was folding my shirts. I saw one review where the commenter, who was black, was saying, "Well, this guy, he's of a certain complexion, and all the magical Negroes are of a darker complexion. Are they trying to say something here?" I'm going, I don't know. I can tell you this: it's poorly acted. That's primarily because Justice Smith. I don't think he's an actor. I think he's playing himself. I think he's just kind of a nebbish. I go back to that term. He just seems to be always.
I'll put it this way. He's the word that Melanie Mack loves to use on Twitter a lot. So you guys can figure it out the rest from there.
Look. I just want to say this: if Woody Allen stopped him, like himself looking the way he did, and his lack of personality from sleeping with, women out of his league, we would have a lot less to talk about today. So, like, if literally, this is
No.
what I tell my, if Woody Allen can go out there and get women and whatever, like, seriously, dude, just shut the fuck up and stop thinking so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure that Justice Smith would want to have a woman. I understand, but that's not the point.
I'm
To
talking.
me,
The character is straight, correct?
the character is
The
straight.
character
Yeah.
in the film is straight. This guy's about as straight as a busted arrow. But yeah,
I don't know what that is. I will say that he is like Woody Allen's illegitimate son, or his black child, because he's always so hesitant and like talks like, well, I don't know. It's like, well,
yeah.
there's
This dude's is about as straight as the Jersey Turnpike.
I've never been there. This is not a good movie because it has no plot, it has no story, it has no acting, it just has a very strange message about how all white people basically want all black people, they'll go
Dead,
crazy. Yeah.
dead.
They
That's
will
what they're
go
implying.
White
They just want
people
them
will
all
go
dead.
crazy and kill them, and so they need a magical Negro to kind of calm them down. Otherwise, they'll start going, berserk and going on rampages and all of this, which I thought was just a very strange concept. It could have been something if they had actually focused on the love triangle and made it an actual story, but they weren't interested in that. I thought that could have worked. That could have worked. Here, yeah, I think I'm going to just give it maybe a. I want to say I'm going to have to give it a 1. If I can't quite give it. No, I should give it a 0. I think I will give it a 0, but I still would watch this than Argyle. Argyle is just such an abomination to me that I can't, if I had to, if they said you will watch the Magical Negroes or you will watch Argyle, I'll say I have to watch the Magical Negroes, because at least I like those little parts where they're talking about the early Magical Negroes from 1923 and 1953, and they are or 55, and they're parroting was it Green Mile and maybe Legend of Bagger Vance, but instead of it being golf, it's pool. So yeah, maybe that would be the one.
Gentlemen, I want you to do me a favor. Remove this cracker from my show.
I can't sit through Argyle. So yeah, but this is really bad. This is ridiculous.
Rob, did you have any final thoughts or questions on this before we wrap things up?
I might have to watch it because I'm trying to imagine how bad it is, and I'm sure it's terrible. But I might have to watch it just to see how bad.
You go in with low expectations, and somehow this film will surpass it. Just put it that way.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is worse than
because the trailer makes it seem like it is a sweet, meet cute, like, hey, fuck the magical society of Negroes or whatever, because they're not gonna, like, they're not gonna dictate to me what I do, who I fall in love with, all of those things. And I'm sad that it didn't turn out. I mean, you know what I mean? It even being a crappy movie at that. Hopefully the character learns to have a backbone, learns to push back. And I suppose that's what that tirade is at the end. I don't know. I have to see it to kind of put it together.
He has to spread his wings and fly. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's supposed to be where, where he finally stands up, and he stands up to, I guess, the idea that black people are there to comfort white people. So that would be his rebellion against the magical Negroes. Though again, where do you get that ugly sweater? That's my that's my big takeaway.
So I'll go ahead and just leave with this. This is our this is a story I was supposed to mention on the last one, but I forgot. I'm gonna bring it back up here. Apparently there's one guy in Detroit who really liked Love Lies Bleeding because he got arrested in Detroit for masturbating during the movie theater. Now, so the way that he got caught is that the film ended and the ushers were cleaning up and he fell asleep with his wiener out after and here's what's working. Apparently this had to be like a luxury like theater too. the guys who caught him, he was like dead out, like asleep, took a picture of him and posted it on the internet. So this is the guy who got caught quite literally with his pants down during the movie asleep. And it's not even the fact that his wiener's out. Look right next to him. This guy has like Fireball, it's a little bit of Hennessy. He has a pack of Marlboros, what is this, a vape in his ticket. Like this guy just straight up like laid himself at home and forgot where he was throughout the course of this. And I could not stop laughing. Like I didn't even like I read the story and I was laughing uncontrollably. Then I saw the picture and I started laughing even harder. It was like some people just aren't meant to be out in the outside world, and I think this guy is probably one of them.
So on my end, my ending is that Kristen Stewart and this other woman were that exciting to him.
I guess.
All right. I mean, someone to tell him that Kristen Stewart is a lesbian is not.
I mean, if they called him like this during the Magical Negro movie, that'll be some more questions.
Anyone who gets that excited over Justice Smith, all right. Well, I don't judge.
Like quite literally, would just got pulled out of the theater. And be like, I thought this was America. I thought this was.
But obviously, it looks like he drank too much and was knocked out by all the booze. But it must have been a pretty empty theater because other people were able to observe him or hear him during the movie.
He was probably like the only dude there, and just thought, sure, why not? Just why not? And then then he got caught. So that's a pretty embarrassing way to be put on the sex offender registry. I think we can all agree with that. That's probably not the best.
That is why you go to the midnight screenings, people. Because there's less chance of you being caught in the middle of all this. But don't go to like a high rent theater.
Maybe don't do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and be the person who judges. Be like, look, it's not a porn theater, okay?
Yeah, it's a regular movie theater.
You're not Pee Wee Herman at a porn theater, so it's just like.
I could have understood if this had happened in Texas. Now that Texas has lost Pornhub,
but the first thought somebody had was, "Oh, this had been Florida, right?" It's like, nope, it's Detroit.
It's if you could picture back up. So this is Detroit. It looks like a nice theater for Detroit. I kind of expected. I don't know. Detroit's always.
I'm pretty sure Detroit has one nice theater in the entire city. Like it's
Auburn Hills, which isn't even Detroit. It's like a suburb.
Yeah, right.
So,
where the Pistons play, I don't know. I've never been to Michigan, so I have no clue.
But it must have. You guys saw the movie, so you must have known what must have excited him early on, and then nobody checked up on him during the movie because at the Alamo they do come around. The servers come around to see how you are, and they would probably notice.
Yeah, it's just a bad look. So next week we're gonna be doing 3 movies again, which means that everyone gets a new movie assignment. So aren't you guys excited to hear what your assignment's gonna be for next week?
I shudder to think.
Well, Rick, you'll be watching the latest Sydney Sweeney film, Immaculate. So that'll be one for you. Rob, you get stuck watching Ghostbusters, and then I'll be watching the new Roadhouse movie. So that's our lineup for next week's show. So it should be a fun experience for everyone involved. And if you want to watch the other 2 movies before the show, you're feel free to do it on your own time. But
and one of them's not in theaters, so there you go.
Yeah.
One of them I think is on Amazon Prime because it was the whole lawsuit thing. So yeah, I'll bite the bullet on that one because I actually do have Prime for the time being. So. Yep, those are 3 movies for next week's show. So just in case you were wondering. So until then, we'll go ahead and sign off here. And Rick, what do you have coming up that you can promote for people?
Well, I've just got the reviews. I'll be reviewing the Magical Negroes. I'll be reviewing finally Dune Part 2 and throwing in the live action short film nominees. So yeah, just my reviews. That's it.
All right then, Rob. I know what you got coming up next.
Yep, I'm behind on 5 reviews. Don't know when they're going to get done. I hope this weekend. I just got another job offer, so I'm still figuring out that part of my life. And yeah, I did not do a podcast this week, so I'm going to do that next week sometime, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just keep checking my Twitter if you care. I'll post it there in the topics. But yeah, I'm behind on reviews. I got to get those out. But in as bad as 2024 has been, I feel like I'm engaging more. I don't know. Maybe there's more movies. I don't know what it is, but even though they're bad, I am seemingly having more fun with them. So there's always that. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to hopefully 2024 not being bad. Hopefully we get some good movies.
Yep. And let you guys know what I got coming up. So over actually I'm not doing that stream tomorrow night, so I don't have to worry about that one. So what's coming up here on Monday, we're gonna be doing part 2 of my Nephilim series, and I'm gonna show you how evidence of the Nephilim are pretty much just thrown all over the place in modern society. You see them all the time in superhero movies. You see them in old school lore. You wonder, where did all these ideas of, superheroes and Greek gods and werewolves and vampire, where did this all come from? Did it just pop up in somebody's head, or is this essentially a story about something that did happen once upon a time? So we'll brush up on Revelation 6, talk a little bit more about that on Monday night. This Tuesday, we'll be back here with the Barroom Podcast. Like I said, this week's show is banned on YouTube because of the WWE. It's still up on Rumble, so if you want to see the whole show, go on the Rumble page. You can watch the whole thing over there. And then, like I said, next week we'll be back here at episode 81. We'll be talking about the new Roadhouse movie, the Sydney Sweeney Immaculate movie, and then Ghostbusters. All three of those we talked about on next week's show as well. To everyone... Nephilim, yeah, I saw that. To everyone who joined us here tonight, Alex vs. Evil, Doba Fett, Spencer, Rooftop Korean, Awesome One, I think Kurt or Keith, because he wants to be called Keith. Well, might have been here as well as too. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here for the show here tonight. We're gonna go ahead and sign off. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. We're hitting the outro. We will see you guys, if not Monday, Tuesday. If not, we'll see you next week here on the show. Adios, goodbye, good night.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out! You get the hell out! Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.